fact, it had nothing to do with my body, and it was a defect in 2 of my husband's chromosomes.
That's interesting.
Well, I'd never heard of anything like that before in my life, and I must tell you that it took us quite a while to how do you process that? You know, that's why, I mean, we just tried. We tried to process it. Eventually, we were sent to the Department of Health for what they called genetic counseling, and there was a counselor, more like a technician kind of person. To me, it was a vague event happening to me. I was still in a cloud of unbelief, disbelief about it all. And they showed us the test results. They showed us where 2 of the chromosomes in my husband's DNA were actually not formed. So you could see the whole string, and DNA wasn't yet something that we just were exposed to everywhere on the internet and TV and whatever. And they showed it, and then they showed that 2 of those chromosomes were not completely formed. And the result of that is complete and absolute impossibility for any baby to form.
Sure. And still you have one child.
Yes, a miracle, an absolute miracle. And as I said, also at 3 months, exactly 12 weeks, in the night, I had a start of a miscarriage with her. And because it was the 3rd time that this was happening to me, I read the signs. But you know, your brain, as a mother, I think your body just does not want to, your brain does not want to accept it. So I was in denial, but my body was reacting quite painfully. But that night I was taken up in hospital and was there for 2 days, and we did not miscarry her.
Oh.
And, yes. And no doctor can explain it until today.
Well, nobody needs to explain that, because the Lord protected her, hey?
Absolutely.
Tell me about something specific. Did you get any emotional, psychological support after the loss of all these babies? Every single one, and the whole lot as a whole. Did you have positive, caring support?
Miscarriage in itself is a pervasive happening, a pervasive emotion, a pervasive trauma. People don't really know how to deal with it. And I reached out, not in the beginning, but later on, I realized I was suffering from depression as a result of. I spoke first with my GP, who said, you don't get antenatal depression if you didn't prepare your baby. Well, I knew different. So I left it at that, but I did reach out to counselors and realized that I was going through an antenatal depression after every miscarriage, and it became worse progressively over the years. But people don't know what to say. Employers don't know what to say. It's not the same as losing a close loved one or a child or a relative and going back to the office, and then people understand give you a bit of space, you know, for a while. They know there was a funeral, there was a specific date of loss, there was an accident, or there was an illness. Now it's just you hardly looked pregnant, and well, you're not. You know, that's how it is. And I don't think we should blame anyone who hasn't gone through it and doesn't understand what you do experience. But support was there if I reached out for it. Other than that, I actually had to bear with people who tried to be sympathetic, simply unaware of the fact that my hurt and my grieving, and especially my intense heartache was difficult to put into words.
If you should recommend anything to a mummy after loss, even after a miscarriage, what would your advice be to a person like that?
I would say it is so important to let go, firstly, of all your expectations.
Okay.
And not focus on the future of the next pregnancy, and all the dreams that you were holding on to for this baby, for the baby's room, for the addition to the family. It could be your third or fourth child that you were planning. And to just let go and just be good to yourself, and to actually practice self-care and get emotional support.
Oh.
Not from family or friends who simply will mean well, but they can't support you properly, but get that deeper emotional support in a form of counseling or therapy, where you can just have acknowledgement of this strangeness that has happened to you, and that you've got nothing to show. You just, in your body, have experienced a major loss.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes, a miscarriage comes at a very late stage.
Yeah.
And the process of grief is the same as if you have lost a limb, or a relative, or your child who had been born or was 3 or 4 or 5 years old. It's the same. You go through all those phases of denial and anger and confusion, a lot of confusion, because there aren't answers. And it's important to acknowledge that and give yourself space and time, because you don't just get over it.
Karin, thank you for sharing this with us. There are so many women that suffer this loss in silence. So we need to speak up. We need to support those people. And thank you for sharing your heart with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elise. It's a pleasure. And thank you for having this interview with me. And I just want to encourage anyone who is going through something like this, maybe as a support person to another family member, or if you yourself have suffered a miscarriage. I think the words of consolation that I have is, take it one day at a time and accept what has happened by being in the present, not in the past and not in the future. Just be with yourself.